When I pointed this out to Killian, that no radio ham has ever claimed to track Apollo all the way to the moon and back, he stated,
"No, Jarrah. All the way to the moon and back! And there were lots of professional facilities outside of NASA who did as well. To this day, you can still go to Jarrah Bank and see their tracking data for Apollo 11.
To which I replied, "No, I've read God only knows how many ham radio testimonies, none of them claim to have tracked it all the way to the moon and back. The only parties who can attest to having tracked the crafts all the way to the moon and back are those at the NASA Deep Space Network, not independent parties. Jarrah Bank currently claims they only tracked Apollo when it was near the moon, not the whole way there and back." Killian used his classic diversionary tactics of alleging that I can't do basic math, and then insisted that Jarrah Bank did track Apollo all the way to the moon and back. I responded with this email from Jarrah Bank's Bob Pritchard. If this email sounds familiar, it's probably because it's the same email we looked at in my earlier video on this subject. No, it isn't. Jarrah Bank's Bob Pritchard specifically said so. In round terms, this allowed us to pick up signals up to about 1,000 miles above the moon's surface. As we were not actively involved in tracking of these spacecrafts, we did not track them after they left the moon. Bob Pritchard, Jarrah Bank. The truth must have hurt, because Killian, exposed as being wrong, used the same old tactic as Astrobrant 2. Pin the argument on the one who proved you wrong.
I think I've just discovered another ramification of your astounding idiocy, Jarrah. You think tracking to the moon and back means having a complete unbroken set of data from liftoff to touchdown. Of course, this would only be the case on a flat Earth with a moon that didn't orbit. Idiots.
To which I replied, I'm not the one who claimed hundreds of independent amateur astronomers tracked Apollo all the way to the moon and back. You're the one who made that claim. If one of your claims turns out to be an error, don't try to pin it on me. Fact remains, JB only claims to have tracked it when it was near the moon, so all NASA need do is put some unmanned craft in lunar orbit to relay/transmit data.
And they had this unmanned craft hit its thrusters to avoid a crater at exactly the same time Armstrong did?
Your point being?
For the record, tracking to the moon and back means checking to see if it's where it's supposed to be whenever it's in LOS. Lots of people did that. Combine it, and you have a full record of the Apollo craft.
Correction. Lots of NASA people did that. The only people who can attest to having tracked it all the way to the moon and back, as you put it, is NASA's Deep Space Network. Killian didn't respond to that. Instead, he just went back to his irrelevant diversions of questioning my math skills. How revealing.
Or, since even special needs children know we landed on the moon, are the moon hoaxers dumber than they are?
It's insulting that Killian alleges that those he calls hoax-tards lie about him and are rude to him when he makes downright offensive statements such as this. Special needs children have learning disabilities. Does that make it okay to insult them? It's like calling a blind man stupid because he can't see where he's going, or calling a guy in a wheelchair a moron because he can't use his legs. I challenge anyone to defend the difference between attacking the visually impaired and attacking those who need assistance in learning. What makes this most appalling is that in the comments of the same video, when one of Killian's supporters complained about this comment, Killian admitted that his own son is a special needs student. How low can one man go that he'll go as far as attacking his own son and others who share his disability in his insane diatribe against his opponents? And this guy thinks we're rude towards him? Pot, kettle, black. Returning to the Apollo 15 flag, it seems Killian is not the only one flogging the dead horses. Astrobrant 2 released more installments of his White Noise series. It appears as though he got tired of messing with the big boys and directed his crosshairs over to, no offense, weaker opponents. Opponents who frequently say wrong things, or who could have worded their sentences better, or just generally make the most unfortunate mistakes. One such opponent is YouTube user WillyWill84. Among other things, he asks the unfortunate old question, if Armstrong was the first man on the moon, who recorded him stepping off the ladder? This question is commonly asked by certain newbies to the moon hoax, or people who are not very well informed about Apollo. But as far as I can tell, all the big players know the answer. Hell, even I explained a long time ago that the first steps were allegedly recorded by a Westinghouse television camera mounted onto the ALSEP, the Apollo Lunar Surface Experiment package, which folds out from the side of the LEM. Naturally, Astrobrand attacks WillyWill84 for making silly statements like that. He's obviously not the moon hoax savant. But he does bring up the Apollo 15 flag, which causes Astrobrand to peddle the same old bogus triboelectric nonsense.
Of all the thousands of photographs and many, many hours of film and video, this is the one thing which I can understand would cause someone to doubt where this film was taken. It does appear as if the astronaut walking by is causing a puff of air to blow the flag, but this can also be explained by static electricity, which, in a vacuum, can have more of an effect at a distance of, say, 2 or 3 feet. I've added these frame clips myself to show that as the astronaut moves, there is no movement of the flag at all as he passes, and the first movement of the flag is toward him. If this was in air, the first slight movement of the flag would be away from him, and then there would be a larger movement toward him from the draft. But in this case, there is no movement of the flag away from him at all.
What a liar! As we saw earlier, the initial movement of the flag moves away from him. Astrobrand isn't even showing us the right frames. He's showing us 2 frames that came after the initial movement, and then falsely claiming that this is the first movement of the flag. Let's have another look at the video. I've added a timer to the corner of the screen. This will allow us to determine the exact moment when the flag moved. Let's watch the clip as it aired on TV.
Okay. You like that flag there, Joe?
It's beautiful.
Yeah, we think it's pretty nice too.
Okay, now let's watch it frame by frame. Now watch these 2 folds in the flag. As you can see, the flag's initial movement is frame 00002105. David Scott has not even reached the flag yet, and it is clearly moving away from him, not towards him as Astrobrand claimed. If we go further, we find that the frame Astrobrand shows is frame 00002129. So this means that, of all the frames Astrobrand decided to cherry-pick, he cherry-picked a frame that occurred 24 frames after the initial flag movement.